Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is a groundbreaking series that dives into the lives of people living in the last frontier. Each episode introduces you to colorful characters from around the state. Funding for Indie Alaska is provided in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company. Catch the latest episodes at alaskapublic.org.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks once again for joining us here for Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. There's a winter storm warning out here for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, including Alpine New Exit for anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow. That's out for the overnight period tonight. And also a winter storm warning out here for the Northeast Brooks Range for 6 to 8 inches of snow tonight, and it looks like 2 to 5 inches falling west of the Dalton Highway there, so the heaviest amounts over in the east. And then there's a winter weather advisory until 10 p.m. tonight here for the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, includes Arctic Village and Venati, those areas there. And that's about it as far as the advisories and warnings go. Again, this one ends at 10 p.m. and then overnight tonight, the two warnings are out until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. On the satellite, there's the system there that's bringing all the snow to the northeast, kind of backing west-northwest, almost right up along the coastline there of the eastern Arctic coast areas, and then some breaks to the south here. Visibilities went up at Arctic Village when those winds turned southwest. You can see the back edge of the clouds not too far away there. Not a bad day here through the eastern interior, kind of variably cloudy with some areas of sunshine. Then there were showers here over the North Gulf Coast this morning that moved inland, brought snow to Seward, Valdez, and Cordova this afternoon. Those moving inland now, and then just some loose clouds here over Cook Inlet. And down to the south, that's the next storm, actually the center under the cirrus shield here of the system, so it's hard to pick out, but that's already brought rain to Kodiak Island after the early morning snow showers they had down there. But rain moving in, that'll bring storm force winds in tonight from Marmot Island down to Sitkinak with gales all along the North Gulf Coast back in across the Barren Islands, Kemshak Bay. A drier day today over the Panhandle, just some scattered showers, and there was some clearing periods as well, much drier than yesterday. Out to the west, that's the next system here. A huge cloud shield with this one, bringing gale force winds, rain and snow into the western Bering and the Aleutians there. That'll push eastward quite rapidly with a strong jet tonight and tomorrow. But here's the system south of Kodiak we're watching, and then this is the low near St. Lawrence Island. Put a band of light snow there from the Seward Peninsula down across Norton Sound all the way down to the Kilbrook Mountains, and then some scattered snow showers either side of that occurring, but the heaviest amounts up here over the northeast with that low center. And tonight you can see it kind of pulls off the coast in a way, so conditions again improving here over the eastern Brooks Range, but holding those warnings out all night until 6 a.m. for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast and northeastern Brooks Range areas. Scattered snow showers occurring here around the Seward Peninsula from Kotzebue Sound down through the Strait to St. Lawrence Island. Dry here over the Yukon-Kuskokwim deltas. And then here's that intense, or that low center with its tight pressure field here, bringing the storm force winds in all around Kodiak Island or all around the center. On the east side of Kodiak Island has the storms. Everywhere else, gale warnings are out, and high pressure drying it out. So looks like a dry period here coming up for the southeast coast. Even the showers end, it looks like, with partly cloudy skies there. And out to the west, that next front pushing eastward tomorrow advances here to the central Aleutians, rain spreading into the Pribilof Islands with an increase in the winds there. Gales out ahead of the front, and then back toward the low center, some good full gales here coming in from the west-southwest with some showers there for the western and eventually into the central Aleutian areas. Still have a trough here, right, bringing some snow showers in across the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island area down to the Kilbrook Mountains, where it'll be in the form of light rain or snow. Kind of a mix there, but kind of a persistent area. Otherwise, not too bad for the Kuskokwim Valley. Dry up over the Tanana Valley in upper Yukon. A much better day coming up for the Arctic coast there. That offshore flow, winds, breezes from the south there should lift visibilities considerably over what they were today and what they'll be tonight. So a big improvement going on up there with the North Slope. Looks like clearing out. Gales show up along the south coast of the Panhandle tomorrow afternoon, and rain spreading into the southern areas. You can see the low center taking a track now after a jog to the north, taking a track to the east, staying south. The front barely getting into the southern Gulf of Alaska, so still be an increase in the winds up here along the coast, but generally most of the energy will be sliding by to the south. And then for Thursday, that system moves in, splits into a couple of centers here, and there'll be some showers over the southern southeast coast, scattered showers with dry conditions up to the north, partly sunny skies there from Juneau all the way over to Yakutat. Still an afternoon shower developing over the Kenai Peninsula, but generally looking pretty good here. Partly to mostly sunny skies from Cook Inlet up through the Susitna Valley and again through the eastern interior. Dry with just a few clouds and increasing sunshine. And the North Slope pretty good, looks like VFR even out along the coastline. That wind flow from south to north there should make for extensive area of VFR and even some sunshine in some areas. The front weakening as it comes into the coast here. Still probably you'll see some small craft advisory gusts for the coastline, say at Cape Newenham, Cape Hermanzoff, Tooksuk Bay in those areas, but generally not a lot of wind left with this. The front weakening, merging with the area of snow that's left by this system up here. So kind of merging together there for an area of rain or snow with some fog, but nothing too terribly heavy. Alaska Peninsula, look for rain, and then a mixture of rain and snow showers with the main low back to the west with some good northwest winds pulling that colder air back into Shimei and Attu. So probably looking at snow showers there, but Adak and Atka, more of a mixture of rain or snow with westerlies 25 to 30 knots. Temperatures this afternoon shaped up like this along the southeast coast in the 40s, 43 at Yakutat, 46 there at Juneau. Stewart, 55 degrees with Kawak at 46 and a 45 at Petersburg. Cordova, 33 degrees. They saw some snow today, as did Valdez with 36, but Anchorage at 44, Kenai 39, 45 in Homer, 40 degrees down at Kodiak, and Talkeetna with fog, 35 degrees, 37 at Gulkana. Northway, 41 degrees, Delta just 34, and then back up to near 40 at Fairbanks with Tanana at 37. Upper Yukon Valley, Fort Yukon had 41 degrees, while Bettles had 33. Anatuvik, snow 30 degrees there, and Arctic Village up to 34. And then all the snow here with temperatures near 20 degrees there for the Nuiqsut and Dead Horse areas at 19, but up to 29 over Kaktovik, 20 at Barrow, Atasuk at 17, mid-20s here in the western Arctic coast, and up around freezing into the lower 30s there for both Kotzebue and at Buckland. 10 degrees cooler though at Nome with 22, 25 at Tin City, and that same reading recorded out at Gamble out here in St. Lawrence Island. Lower to mid-20s along the southwest coast there with 25 degrees at St. Michael, 21 at Macoriac, and then inland valleys into the mid to some cases upper 30s, 36 there at McGrath with Sleepmute at 37, Bethel 32 degrees. Heading out to the west, right around freezing this afternoon at 3 p.m. there for the Pribilofs at 33 at St. Paul, 35 there at Shimei, 41 at Adak, and 38 degrees at Unalaska. Upper 30s to lower 40s as you reach northeast Bristol Bay there, 43 degrees at King Salmon. Lows for tonight, coldest again up along the north slope. Some areas dropping close to zero, but generally above zero and in the teens on the eastern Arctic coast. Single numbers and teens here back down through the northwest with 17, the forecast low at Savunga. Otherwise, in the 20s here over the southwest interior, mid to upper 20s over the eastern and central interior, and 20s to lower 30s south of the Alaska Range across Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, with lower 30s along the coastline, and in the 30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast. And taking a look at highs for tomorrow, near 40 for the Aleutians, near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, mid 40s there for Bristol Bay, and upper 20s along the coast to lower 40s inland, with temperatures in the 40s, in some cases lower 50s here through the central Tanana Valley and the upper Yukon, and near 20 along the Arctic coast, with 20s for the most part across the North Slope, and then markedly warmer, jumping the Brooks Range into the near 40 there at Bettles, upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle. Flying weather, that system pushing eastward, IFR all across the central and southern Gulf of Alaska. That coming in, heading in toward the south coast of the Panhandle with marginal VFR up to about Sitka, say at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. North of there, VFR for the North Gulf Coast, and some lingering marginal VFR here for the western Prince William Sound area, Kenai Peninsula, coming down to Kodiak Island, improving with this shifting away from the east after coming down this evening and overnight tonight. Good VFR through a good portion of interior Alaska, just some marginal stuff, possibly catching Barrow at a time tomorrow. And then the IFR of that next front pushing rapidly eastward across the Bering and the Aleutians, IFR for the Fox Islands and the Pribilofs. Taking a look at passes, Anatuvik, VFR north and south, and Adigan, same forecast, VFR through the pass. Open conditions forecast for Lake Clark and Merrow with VFR flying for rainy, and for windy, VFR. Isabel, VFR. All the passes actually, I believe, are VFR except for Portage. Mentasta, VFR. I guess I have to say the name or it won't advance. Tanita, VFR. And Portage starts out marginal and then becoming VFR. That would be on the eastern entrance. For Chilkoot and White, VFR. For the freezing levels at the surface here, kind of farther to the north over the western Bering Sea, cutting down close to the Pribilofs and then up through Togiak Bay, across the western Alaska Peninsula, and then hugging the coastline, cutting across the northern Panhandle. A little bit warmer air coming northward there with the system pushing eastward, nudges the 2,000-foot freezing level up to about 55 north. And then also the incoming system in the Aleutians pulling 2,000 feet up over the Adak-Atka area. And with that, look for quite an area of light to isolated moderate rime icing here, advancing eastward, possibly as far east as the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow afternoon, with some occasional moderate icing into the Pribilofs down to Nikolsky, and then more scattered back to the west. And then this area will be sliding eastward, probably not reaching the southeast coast until about this time tomorrow evening. And upper level wind flow chart. Here's the upper low center that'll be tracking from Kodiak, or tracking east from Kodiak tonight, and we'll be bringing the gales into the southeast coast on the southern areas. Here's the old system up here pulling back into the Russian Far East, and then the other system heading eastward across the southern Bering Sea. And the main jet here is still to the south, but a weak trough right through here, keeping it kind of unsettled up over the western and southwest interior. Looking at 9,000-foot winds, again quite strong around this low center, but the whole system staying to the south, so the strongest winds will actually be across the southern Gulf of Alaska. Still looking at 35-knot winds in across Kodiak Island tomorrow during the day, but those will be diminishing. High pressure, not bad here over the east central interior, and then southerly winds 40 to 50 knots here over the southeast Bering Sea, and also 40 to 45 knots ahead of that front, and then back with the main low center, excuse me, across the western Aleutians. And with this light wind condition over the Panhandle, the strongest winds again moving inland to the south. And turbulence-wise, occasional moderate chop here, light isolated moderate showing up along the southeast coast during the day tomorrow, with the heavier stuff just off the coast. That'll probably move in tomorrow evening, and then heaviest turbulence over Kodiak tonight, becoming light to isolated moderate throughout the day and into the late afternoon hours, all below 6,000 to 8,000 feet. And after the break, I'll return with a look at the marine forecasts.
This is a drill. This message is in support of the 2005 Safe Sanctuaries exercise. This is only a drill.
Emergency responders continue to address environmental impacts
From the 800-foot container ship aground on Elbow Reef in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary.
Every year, NOAA responds to thousands of natural and human-induced incidents threatening life, property, and natural resources. During such incidents, NOAA is mandated to protect natural resources, provide weather data, and chart navigable waterways. To better fulfill this mission, NOAA conducted the first Safe Sanctuaries exercise in April of 2005 to bring together NOAA resources and expertise with other agencies for a hypothetical oil spill in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary.
Briefly, the situation is, as we know, the worthless freighter went aground on the Elbow. It's currently leaking fuel, and there's also a secondary release.
The Elbow is an outlying reef in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. This marine protected area is one of 13 marine sanctuaries and one coral reef ecosystem reserve in the United States. The Florida Keys is the nation's only living barrier coral reef. This exercise highlights NOAA's finest in emergency response and demonstrates its wide array of assets and capabilities. Under the Oil Pollution Act, the U.S. Coast Guard assumes the lead authority to direct an emergency response in the marine environment as the federal on-scene coordinator. In a significant incident such as this, the on-scene coordinator calls upon a cadre of specialists from around the country and assembles them in an incident command post, in this case, the Monroe County Emergency Response Center. Key among them is NOAA's Scientific Support Coordinator, who serves as a science advisor to the on-scene coordinator. For this exercise, the NOAA coordinator leads the environmental unit that will orchestrate the delivery of data and observations acquired from NOAA scientists and others. Among the initial information needed for the response is figuring out where the leaking oil is headed. The Scientific Support Coordinator dispatches an oceanographer to make real-time observations of ocean currents and oil movement at the grounding site.
You know if it's the north end or the south end where you're going to be dropping? Northwest end.
She does this by dropping biodegradable dye pellets from the helicopter and photographs the dispersal of the dye.
90, 25. I'm away. That's a great sun angle. It's hard to see it though, I think.
This green dye mimics oil and gives the oceanographer an accurate view of sea surface currents.
Okay, got what I need.
When she returns, she immediately reports the information to the Scientific Support Coordinator in the Incident Command Post. They combine these observations with others in the environmental unit who have been working around the clock to respond to the oil spill.
There's this eddy right here.
As soon as the spill was reported, the Scientific Support Coordinator also requested a team from the Center for Operational Oceanographic Products and Services. Working with the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary staff, they assembled and deployed a quick response buoy to collect real-time data at the wreck site. Using sound waves, this acoustic Doppler current profiling package measures ocean currents throughout the water column and transmits that information via satellite and radio straight into the command post.
Well, and that's what we're showing here. Tenth of a knot, we got 3 tenths of a knot measured.
Other team members monitor a pair of surface current mapper stations that were installed along the coast. These towers broadcast and receive high-frequency radio waves along the sea surface and provide another measurement of the surface currents, but on a wider scale. Process signals are also uplinked via satellite to the command post. The data from the surface current stations and current profiling buoy are verified with the aerial observations made on site by the oceanographer.
Anything that would indicate that, but I'm trying to think of would I have seen it if it was there.
It might have been the water so clear.
But more data are available and needed. The oceanographer also teams up with a meteorologist from the National Weather Service. He is a warning coordination meteorologist and hourly he receives 2 critical updates on weather forecasts. One comes from NOAA's Weather Forecast Office in Key West.
Unlike yesterday with the true east direction that we might have expected, it looks like the models are indicating that it might be more of an east-northeast by early afternoon hours.
These are the local experts who understand the daily weather patterns in the Florida Keys and can make the most sense out of the information coming from NOAA satellites, radar, and their own observations. During a sensitive event such as an oil spill, the Key West office also dispatches an incident meteorologist dedicated to monitoring the weather specifically on the wreck site. With assistance from the sanctuary, the incident meteorologist installed a real-time monitoring system on the nearest accessible platform to the grounding site. This instrument transmits real-time observations of wind speed, wind direction, and temperature back to a small satellite dish that was set up in the Field Operations Center in Key Largo. With the most current data and frequent observations, the incident meteorologist prepares the second source of updates for the warning coordination meteorologist in the command post.
I have a forecast here ready to go. That's what I was just coordinating with the with your office there, and I can go ahead and send that to you in the next 10-15 minutes.
Integrating all the field data, the meteorologist presents the most current forecast back to the environmental unit. With all the real-time information now in hand, the Scientific Support Coordinator and Oceanographer contact NOAA's Scientific Support Team in Seattle, Washington.
Hey Tom, this is Debbie and Brad and Matt here.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Hey Bushy.
Mark Miller, CJ, and Bushy here on the Warren.
At the vessel site, we did a die drop, and the currents were about 0.6, 0.7 of a knot to the north.
The team in Seattle will now work quickly to compile all the available data in computer programs and build a trajectory model for where the oil is expected to go. At least twice per day, the Seattle team updates the trajectory model. This critical information is faxed to the command post and delivered immediately to the Scientific Support Coordinator. Whenever there is new information available, the Scientific Support Coordinator and other NOAA specialists brief the Unified Command. The Unified Command is the lead group in the command post, composed of the sanctuary manager, the state and federal on-scene coordinators, and the responsible party for the ship grounding. The Unified Command and the planning unit will use the latest trajectory model and other information to best direct the course of field operations for the response.
Welcome back. Well, tomorrow afternoon, winds becoming southeast and increasing to gale force here along the south coast of those seas, building to 12 feet. Easterlies at 25 knots for the north coast. The seas there running 10 to 12 feet. Over the inside waters, northern Lynn Canal, north 15 here through the central and inner channels. Clarence Strait, southeast at 20, seas 4 feet. And then for Thursday, much lighter winds with the system moving inland to the south there. So north to northwest at 15 for the north coast and central coast, a little bit breezier, northeast up to 17, or northeast to 20 with the seas up to 17 feet. Easterlies at 15 knots on the south coast. Same thing here over the southern inside channels and north 15 for Clarence or for Stevens Passage. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, north winds increasing to 25 knots with seas at about 5 feet. For the North Gulf Coast, gales tonight, gales tomorrow, but diminishing in the afternoon here. Easterlies 35 knots. Storms out for tonight from Marmot Island to Sitkinak there on the east side of Kodiak Island with gales out all across the Barrens into Kamishak Bay and down Shelikof Strait. But those drop back a little bit tomorrow from the northeast to 30 knots. Northeast 25 over the southern inlet, northeast 15 for the northern inlet. And then for Thursday, much lighter winds, Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet north at 10, otherwise northeast at 10 down the inlet. Southeast 20 knots from the Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay, southeast 15 for Shelikof Strait, and lighter southerly winds at about 20 there on the east side of Kodiak Island, 15 knots from the North Gulf Coast, and north to northwest at 10 for Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay tomorrow, westerlies at 15. Southwest 25 here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, southeast 30 knots on the Bering Sea side, and Sitkinak over to about Chignik. Look for northerly winds at 25 knots. Coming down to 25 knots, strongest winds will be in the morning, lighter in the late afternoon. And then those swing around to south 25 there, southwest of Kodiak, southwesterlies at 25 here on the Pacific side of the peninsula. And then the north side there, Southerlies at 25 knots, Bristol Bay southeast at 20 with seas running about 5 feet. For the Aleutians, gales tomorrow here, southwesterlies 35 to 40 knots, strongest to the west. And then small craft advisories behind the front. There will be gales in advance of the front, and they'll be pushing across the eastern Aleutians tomorrow in the 35 to 40 knot range. And then for Thursday, good west to northwesterly winds at 40 knots. In fact, we got gales from the western Aleutians all the way over to Atka Island. Small craft advisory southwesterlies there for the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, tomorrow, southerlies at 20 knots, and actually that pattern extends up across St. Lawrence Island. Brisk wind advisories here for the St. Matthew Island area. Gales look for southeast increasing to 35 knots there for St. Paul and St. George. Then those will drop off the next day. Southerlies at 20 knots, south 25 there for the waters south of Nunivak Island. Easterlies at 30 knots for St. Lawrence Island. Up along the Arctic coast, for the central and east side, all the way to Demarcation Point tomorrow, southwesterlies at 20 knots. West 15 here from Point Lay up to about Wainwright, and then easterlies, Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, and southeast to 20 knots from Wales to Cape Thompson. And then those will become easterly in that zone on Thursday. Southerlies here, 15 to as high as 25 knots there on the central coast, and more of a southeast direction at 20, but notice all blowing offshore, which will improve the ceilings and visibilities considerably over what they are, say, now and tonight. And then for tonight, there's that intense storm here, bringing the storm force winds into Kodiak Island with the heavy rain. Some of that working up into western Prince William Sound, but not too bad over the interior. Some leftover snow showers over the west central part of the state, and that next gale force frontal system pushing eastward across the Aleutians. And that makes it past Atka by about this time tomorrow afternoon with some showers and gusty winds following in behind. Leftover snow showers here in the west, and this system...
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.